Good evening. We face a start to the new school year that's unlike anything we've ever faced before. In essence, we're looking to create a clear path to a world that's rather unclear in many ways. However, our mission is still as important as ever, and that is a great education for every child in the safest environment possible. Our situation right now is one about managing expectations that come from a variety of different directions. So to tackle this very difficult assignment, we initiated a multifaceted process that involved multiple steps and multiple people. First, we began by assembling a task force of senior staff members and reached out to a variety of different experts in public health and in medicine, epidemiology. We read a variety of different sources of information and tried to collect the best information we could about a situation that really is very new and is emerging and changing every day. We also collected feedback from a variety of different stakeholder groups, including over 800 staff members who participated in the staff survey and over 3,400 surveys that were received from parents. This helped us to identify areas of concern, areas that were important that we addressed, and just generally understand how people were feeling so that we could really personalize our plan to make it a best fit for our community. We also established subgroups of different stakeholders from within the organization and also outside of the organization. We met with teachers, with administrators, with support staff personnel, with directors, and with school principals. This helped us again to identify emerging themes and really helped us to focus on common directions and areas that we needed to address appropriately in order to move forward with this plan. I'd like next to go through some of the data and some of these themes that did emerge as we went through the process. I'll begin with the parent survey, which again was put out to all of our families and which actually received a wonderful response rate, which we appreciate. Again, approximately 3,400 replies were received. And really what the data says in general is that there was a wide variety of thought about this topic, and I think that's reflective of what we're seeing in the greater society about this topic. In general, we saw that there's a desire for flexibility and that people have different thoughts regarding their comfort level with students coming back to school physically in August. And that doesn't even consider the fact that from any point in time when someone completes a survey, these variables are changing every day. Another question was about what type of educational delivery model would be best for children. One of the themes that emerged very quickly is the need to be flexible and the need to provide people with choice. And I think that was validated by the data which we received. For example, just slightly over 50% of our parents told us that they would like their children to come back to school in the traditional sense, physically present at the school. But the data also told us that there are a number of parents and a wide distribution of feelings about this idea of coming back to school. And there were many people that would be better suited to have an opportunity to go to school through an online or a virtual format or something like that. So again, this theme of flexibility and choice really rose to the top of our priority and really gave us guidance that this was something that we needed to do in developing any kind of plan to reopen school. Interesting feedback through comments and through kind of sorting through that data about what parents were most concerned about. And the themes that emerged the most strongly were the importance of fidelity, frequency, and strength of cleaning protocol, sanitation, and associated procedures that are designed to keep children and staff healthy and well and to support a good learning environment. One of the questions we asked was, about flexible learning options for the fall. And as everybody recalls, the whole country was put in a situation where almost literally overnight we had to move to a virtual or an online learning environment. And so we asked for feedback about what went well and maybe what we need to do better. And as you can see, the feedback, I think, is very colorful, and it gives us relevant feedback. One of the takeaways that I got from the data is that considering the circumstances, we did well, and we were able to continue opportunities for students to learn, especially given those circumstances. However, the distribution of this data is really informative for us. To me, it tells me that we need to and we will do even better. And I think some of the things that we take away from this graph is that we need to focus on enhancing the level of structure, the academic expectations, the expectations of direct contact, of communication, of grading and assessment. And that's something that we're really taking to heart and really pursuing with intentionality as resolve as we operate in this world where distance learning platforms are likely to be a significant part of how we deliver our mission of student success. As I mentioned earlier, we conducted a survey for our staff members, and there were some interesting comparisons and contrasts in this data that I think were interesting. One, you see the bar graph asking staff members about how concerned they are in regards to the opening of school in the fall. And you can see, again, a colorful distribution of thoughts and opinions. It is noteworthy that a little more than a third of the staff members said they were very concerned. And so that really gave us information that we need to do everything we can to listen to the themes of those concerns and to strive to mitigate those to the greatest extent that is possible. If we look at that graph about the topics that are of most concern, again we see a comparison and a parallel with what parents said in that cleaning, sanitation, and specific protocol for doing so was very important. And it's important that this be done thoroughly, deeply, and with a high level of frequency and fidelity. I included a few comments that kind of summarized the feelings of different stakeholders, which again includes parents and various different staff members. And I think the main takeaway from that is that there's a diverse array of feelings about these topics related to safety, to education, to virtual learning, to traditional school learning, to the pros and cons of all the different options. And again, it reinforced the fact that we have a pretty daunting challenge before us in these uncertain times, but it also reinforced that we need to focus as much as we can on trying to find that commonality, on trying to find common ground, and really creating the best fit possible as we prepare to open school going forward. So next we'd like to move forward to the specifics of our plan. Again, we work really hard in these conversations to identify the issues, the topics, the themes, and the practices that were deemed the most important, that we needed to tackle and clarify in order to start school successfully and safely. And that's what we're going to address next. The road back, as we're calling it. And again, I just wanted to reinforce some guiding lights, kind of some points that help provide focus and direction to this plan. One is we really wanted to make sure that we create as much clarity as we can, even in an unclear situation that's changing very fast. Two is we want to make sure that our plan provides families with some choice about programs, quality programs that best meet the unique needs of their family. And we're also trying to create as much fidelity and quality to our programs so that they're flexible and they're adaptable and that we can interchangeably move from one platform to another, because those are the times that we live in. We have to have that capability to adapt and to change. So the four models that I'd like to address are specifically a traditional or an in-person full-time model, our new Digital Pathways Academy, which is a 100% online learning program that we've worked really hard to develop and will be deploying proudly this fall. We want to talk about a hybrid or blended model, which there's been a lot of discussion about across the country, and also a distance learning model, which is similar to the program concept that we had in the spring, but with significant enhancements. So again, our goal is to have a big toolbox with as many tools as possible so that we are ready to offer as much flexibility and choice, and that we're also able to be as adaptable as possible to this rapidly changing situation. So again, these first slides are general, but also focused, or I guess most applicable to the traditional learning model. The first aspect, of course, regards health and hygiene. And I'll show you a sample of our product, not because we're going to go over every rectangle and little square in the chart, because it reflects a lot of tireless hard work, a lot of analysis, a lot of review of best practice, and really the production of a document that conveys a few basic themes. One is there will be very clear, very concrete, and very specific standards for cleaning and for sanitation protocol this fall. We've always very much valued the importance of our schools being clean because we believe they're reflective of our vision of excellence and our culture of safe and supportive environments, which we've always strived for. But that just elevates by a quantum leap, if you will, based on the tremendous priority that it is in the current world that we live in. And one highlight, a couple of highlights that I would just notice and ask you to just focus on as I go through these next few slides is that there are some very specific enhancements and new protocol that's in place. One is we are purchasing electrostatic cleaning machines. Every space in our schools, every classroom is going to be cleaned and sanitized with these instruments every day. There's going to be high frequency, regular and deep sanitation of many of the high touch surfaces, the most commonly touched areas, to ensure to the greatest extent possible that these are clean and disinfected on a regular, frequent basis to mitigate and minimize the likelihood of anybody getting sick. Another thing you'll notice is that these health and hygiene standards involve procedures and enhanced procedures in regards to washing one's hands, mobility, the operation of recess and lunch and buses, again to support fidelity and clear, concise practices that will help keep our students and our staff members safe. Now I think it would be prudent and appropriate to talk about face coverings. We all know that that's a topic that has captured a high level of attention in our community, in our region, our state, and for that matter across the entire country. And so I'd just like to tell you that we've very methodically and very carefully looked into this. We've researched, we've looked at the pros and cons, and we've made a few determinations, always in a respectful and sensitive consideration to the fact that there are different opinions and that we do want to be as respectful as we can to everybody's opinion. But at the same time, we have to make the best decisions that we can based on the best information. You know, it's interesting that this virus is called novel or new. So there are a lot of things that we don't know and information that's emerging every day. In fact, the research is actually pretty thin. But what we've tried to do is talk to people that know, talk to people that are experts about public health, listen to the guidance that's been given by the referent public health authorities, and make the best decision possible. So here's a few points to kind of summarize where we're going with this. First of all, as you know, our county, Pima County here in Arizona, has issued an ordinance, an order, if you will, that face coverings will be worn by all individuals 5 years of age and older in the public space where social distancing of at least 6 feet cannot be assured. And we have researched this and confirmed that this order does apply to us as a public body, as a public space. Furthermore, as you see from some of the sample comments that we've listed, again from referent authorities, people whose professional expertise is in this area, is that more and more the weight of the evidence does suggest that there is significant value in wearing face coverings, and that the use of face coverings is justified, and in fact that the inconvenience of wearing a face mask is significantly outweighed by the emerging evidence of benefit to wearing these face coverings. So based on all of this information, the standard in this traditional model will be that in order to support the health of students and staff, and to support our actual ability to come back at the most reasonable and prudent opportunity and get our kids back in school, will be the wearing of face coverings. Having said that, we know that there are some rare exceptions, and we do need to have individualized considerations. So we will look at individual considerations for a couple of contingencies. For example, if we have a student or staff member who has a documented medical situation where it's deemed to pose a potential source of risk or of discomfort or of significant level of concern, we will look at those cases. In addition to that, we also understand that developmentally we serve young people that are from a very young age all the way to young adults. And so we will take that into consideration and allow teachers specifically that are working with unique populations, unique samples of students, for example, very young children, to provide instruction to them on how to properly wear their face covering, and as needed to be able to incorporate brief breaks to support the success of this protocol, which is in place to support safety. Temperature checks. Again, our goal is to implement procedures that show the greatest promise of benefit, return on the time and the investment that's put forth. So in regards to temperature checks, after looking into it, we decided that we're not going to do daily temperature school-based checks for every single student. And the reason for that is that the evidence suggests that there's a variety of different variables, including the actual validity of doing that, and therefore the benefit of doing that for students. In addition to that, there's concern about logistics and operational benefits versus risks of implementing that, not to mention the time and the logistics involved with that. So instead, what we're going to do is ask our parents to be a partner with us, the first line of defense, if you will, on being as conscientious as possible in screening their children at home. And these are materials that are available and that we're glad to share about the basic symptoms, the things parents can do to evaluate their children before they leave home each morning, to take their temperature if possible at home if there's a concern, and to communicate with the school. We'll be doing that at school as well. We'll be continuing to train and to provide professional development to staff about these basic symptoms, the basic visual cues and other symptoms that students may express if they're not feeling well, so that we can be partners together in identifying students who may be sick and together working to move them out of the general student population, safely isolate them, evaluate what's going on, and make sure that they're taken care of and that we're able to maintain the healthiest environment possible in our classrooms. We do anticipate, again, based on the potential benefit of that and the manageability of that, that staff temperature checks will be something that we will implement as part of the daily routine in all of our schools and all of our district offices and operations. And again, that aligns with some of the feedback that we heard both from parents and from staff about things that were deemed to have significant value. School transportation services. Again, many of our students spend a chunk of time every day on the bus getting back and forth from home to school. And so we are implementing specific enhancements there to support a safe ride for everybody. Some of the highlights, as you see before you on the slides, include very meticulous cleaning of the surfaces of the bus, the seats, and other commonly touched surfaces before and after each run. Of course, face covers will be required to be worn on our school buses. We are working strategically in the scheduling of our bus runs and routes to reduce the bus loads to the greatest extent possible. Our drivers, of course, will take corresponding precautions on their side. They, of course, being employees, will be checked with temperatures daily, and we will make sure that the buses have appropriate and thorough ventilation system to the greatest extent that is possible. Common office spaces, we've probably all gotten rather used to what office spaces look like in these days of the COVID-19 pandemic. Ours, we expect, will implement some of those common practices, including the utilization of plexiglass or other plastic type of shield in general office spaces where there's general traffic volume, signage on campus directing specific flow, again, to support smooth operations of the daily routine, the availability of hand sanitizer and other PPE types of supplies in our offices, and also the mobilization and the movement of furniture to support the distancing goals. Next, let's talk about food and nutrition services. So again, this is an area where our children spend a portion of their day, and schools across America are grateful to be able to deliver healthy and nutritious meals to our children. So again, in support of a safe environment, we're implementing a variety of different and very specific and very intentional modifications to support a healthy and a positive experience. For example, we are working with intentionality to space the children out and to designate and mark the locations in the cafeteria so that we maximize the availability of that space and provide as much distance as possible. Another thing that we're doing to help promote efficient operations is we are limiting the choices so that we can more efficiently provide our students with meals and help move them through the process so that they can enjoy their lunch, but that we can utilize the space in the cafeteria to the greatest extent that is possible. We're working to adjust schedules or stagger the schedules as much as creatively as possible so that we can minimize the number of students that are present in the cafeteria space as much as we can, and to spread the space as much as is reasonable and prudent to include the possibility of providing additional external tables where students can further spread out to create additional distance. The cafeteria will provide, in addition to the hand washing protocol, which will be embedded in the classroom, the cafeteria food service personnel will be providing hand sanitizer just prior to receiving food so that students will be able to sanitize one more time before receiving their food. And we will be providing individualized condiments and utensils for each student. Classroom cohorting is another overt action step that we're taking, and real simply that's an intentional effort to keep groups of students as self-contained units, as contained as is humanly possible in the school setting, while still striving to provide them with a physical environment that is positive and a feeling tone that is pleasant throughout the school day. So for recess and lunch, as was mentioned, we will work to provide students with the opportunity to be around their same classmates, to take recess times with their classroom cohorts so that they are in somewhat self-contained groups, but that they still have an opportunity to get fresh air and to have recreation to the extent possible. You know, one of the topics that we are very conscientious of is the importance of serving the total child, the total well-being of the child. And it's, I think, goes without saying that for all of us, children and adults, there's been a fair amount of stress over the past few months. And so we want to make sure that we're taking care of mental health and wellness and well-being of our students and staff as well. So these efforts will be intentional. We're very fortunate through the support of our local community to have fully certified master's level school counselors at all of our schools. We have the national model of competency-based counseling, and we'll continue to implement those models in addition to partner with the Better Together Coalition and other community resources that we will utilize fully to support referral services and other mental health and counseling services that will certainly be an asset to us as we strive to serve our students. We also have a comparable program of employee assistance for our employee team members as well. In terms of visitors, for a temporary time, and in order to minimize and manage those interactions and the safety of students, we will be putting limitations and saying that there will generally be no outside visitors allowed in the schoolhouse campus, other than, of course, for any emergency situations where individual discretion will be allowed at the school principal level. Similarly, in support of those same goals, school-wide events are going to be paused temporarily, and of course, this means assemblies, meet and greet, traditional style performances, fine arts events that are a very special part of our culture and which we hope to return to very rapidly. But for now, based on the priority of safety and health, we've deemed that we need to eliminate those for the current time. So that kind of summarizes some of the guiding norms for the traditional school setting. Next, I'd like to talk about the Sahuarita Digital Pathways Academy just a little bit. And again, I wanted to stress that we're here to serve and to meet the needs of all students and to help all students succeed. And we take that with a great deal of seriousness. And one of the things that came through clearly is that for a number of our families, they're just not ready to come back for the traditional full-time environment, and they prefer an online setting, and we want to do everything possible to meet your needs as well. So we are literally developing this comprehensive online virtual academy, which will be for those folks that would like a 100% full-time experience. Again, in the name of flexibility and choice, for families that want a full-time experience, this is a program that is currently accepting students. It's going to operate 5 days per week. It's going to be staffed by a fully certified, highly qualified, certificated member of our Sahuarita Unified School District faculty. At the K-5 level, it's going to have a virtual component complete with daily, specific, direct instruction and guidance. It's going to be a school in a virtual setting. And for the secondary level, that would be for grades 6 through 12. We're going to utilize a resource that we already have at our disposal, one that has proven itself to be a quality program that has been supporting some of our existing programs. It's called Edgenuity, E2020, and it's going to be an online program that will still be facilitated by highly qualified, certificated personnel. We are asking for a commitment of at least one semester for students that would choose this, and that's just to manage expectations, to manage our staff, and to really make sure that we're providing fidelity to the highest quality of service to all of our students, but yet providing some flexibility so there's periodic opportunities to kind of evaluate and hit the reset button if folks feel that maybe there's value to considering a change. I did want to note that in consideration of some of the feedback we've received, we are going to extend the opportunity for folks from by a couple of days to July the 17th, which is a week from Friday. So the registration portal is open, and if you'd like to avail yourself of this opportunity, we will be taking those applications through July the 17th. Again, that's the Sahuarita Digital Pathways Academy. I'd like to talk briefly about the hybrid blended concept. This concept has received a fair amount of discussion across the country, and really what it provides is an opportunity to reduce the number of students physically present in a school at any given time without incurring the need for additional people or additional spaces, by basically dividing the class of students into two and at any given time having half of them physically in the class and the other half working independently from home. And this particular mode of learning has its advantages. It also has its challenges. Of course, the advantage is that it does lower the class size by 50%. And it's been proposed in different variations, whether it's a half-day program or a program that's alternating days, or even a program that's alternating weeks. But in essence, it's the same concept of 50% of the class being physically in the classroom at a given time. Now, some of the concerns, or at least the question marks, are that in terms of distancing, it would seem logical that having less kids would provide more distancing, but given the general challenges of distancing in a traditional setting, there's a question about the overall benefit of a hybrid in-person versus a full in-person model, and it's just unknown. Another thing is that it is a disruption to the traditional model of education, and we're sensitive to the fact that we're here to deliver a valuable service to our community and that our families depend on us. And so if we diminish our accessibility to our families, it's disruptive to families. It's disruptive to your routines. It's disruptive to your day-to-day family situation. It's disruptive to your need for childcare. It's just a challenge. And then from there, we go to the challenge that it presents in terms of the educational calendar. Based on the way that our pacing calendars are laid out, if we diminish the presence of students by 50% in the class, it means that we are going to have to modify the calendar and really either compress or really struggle to complete the objectives that are required in the course of an entire school year, or we're going to depend on students to capture that through independent learning. And that's something that is challenging and that frankly is concerning to me. So that's a challenge. It impacts education. The other challenge is the most recent order of our governor, specifically as noted on your slide, order number 41, 2020-41. Our governor stated very clearly that when we come back, there has to be a full-time component to our return to school plan, and that if a hybrid type program is done, it can only be done if the schools provide other learning opportunities which require on-site staffing and on-site capacity, even during the time when students are not in school. So that, of course, creates an additional challenge to this model as well. So I can tell you that our schools do have conceptual plans and ideas, but based on some of these limitations, we've put this on kind of the pause mode so that we're ready to bring it back if we need to. But based on these challenges and frankly the feedback that we've heard through our data, through our focus groups, through our subgroups, we've kind of put this one in pause for right now. Distance learning. So distance learning is this broad idea of the ability to provide learning from home for a broad segment of the population. Last spring, that was for the entire district. In the future, that might be for a classroom, or for a grade level, or for an entire school. And again, looking back on the data that was received from our parents, we heard that loud and clear, that it was good based on what we faced, but that we can and need to do better. And I can tell you we're committed to that. We are focusing upon enhancing and clarifying the components of direct instruction. We are focusing on the norms for independent work, for homework. We're looking at providing additional clarity about the learning platforms, the procedures, the outreach and communication protocol, and also the standards of academics in terms of our standards, and also in terms of accountability and assessment. We really want to move from providing opportunities for learning, which is what I believe we were able to successfully do in the spring, to actually providing distance learning, distance school from a distance. So that's the distance learning plan. I'd like to talk a little bit about managing illness. Certainly for all of us in our different roles, both personally and professionally, this is very, very important. We want to make sure that we do everything possible to keep everybody healthy, but also to take care of everybody and each individual when somebody's not well. And we have to be prepared for the fact that at any given point, somebody might not be well. So just to highlight a few of the points here, we will be focusing procedurally, both for adults and for students, on scanning and assessment. And again, this is a partnership with parents where we're going to cooperate to assess students through different levels. First, through an initial screen at home. Second, through a visual specific observation at the beginning of the day. And also through the evaluation and identification of students when they present illness symptoms. And that also goes for staff. We're going to look out for each other as a community and as a school. I know that conceptually this is what we always do. When children are sick, they are identified and there's an initial assessment, there's communication. And when a student is ill, they are sent home. And in general, that's what we're going to continue to do. And we have general norms, like if a student is vomiting or has diarrhea or symptoms like that, they've got to be free of those symptoms for 24 hours. If a student has fever, they're required to be fever-free for 72 hours without fever-reducing medications. Those are norms that will continue. The addition is if a student is identified as having COVID-19. And one of our initiatives that's still in process is to develop the ability, to the extent that parents give consent, to test students when they show illness symptoms that might be deemed COVID-19. But either way, when a student is tested and identifies as positive for COVID-19, we will initiate the tracing process, which involves identifying individuals around the student or the staff member who has tested positive, who have had close proximity. And that's very specifically defined, and there's a methodical process that identifies that. And then determinations are made about who has had close proximity. And that individual or those individuals are required to follow the public health guidance, which is determined in consultation with the Pima County Health Department, which is the public health body that's responsible for our schools. And if necessary, that may involve a group of children or adults that have to quarantine for 2 weeks. It might involve a whole classroom or more. This is very individualized, and that's where we have to have that flexibility and that adaptability to very quickly make decisions and implement process so that we can remove individuals who may have been exposed, so that we can take care and monitor those individuals, and so that we can minimize the risk for everybody else. And we are prepared and ready to implement those protocols as well. The health offices will change their mindset a little bit. We will be more focused upon taking care of the normal or the less severe health situations in an outreach or a field-based type of approach, so that we can designate the identified spaces in the health office for children who are more ill, so that we can create those levels of separation as well. So again, our goal is to have specific procedures to identify people when they are sick, to isolate and remove them, to track and trace and do what we have to do, in addition to cleaning the identified spaces, so that we can help and support the individuals in need, but also minimize risk to others and make sure that learning continues. And the other thing that is important here is that it highlights the fact that we have to have the capability to quickly move to a different platform of learning. And that's why the refinement and the fidelity and the quality of the distance, the digital and the traditional learning platforms is critical, because we have to be ready to move very quickly and nimbly from one to another. Our team members, we heard from our Sahuarita staff members, and obviously they are not only dedicated professionals who I know very much desire to continue giving the best of themselves in support of our students, and at the same time, like everybody else, they're concerned about the health and safety of their students, also their own health and safety, in regards to keeping themselves healthy and well, and also being healthy and well for their respective families and the people that they interact with. So it really reinforces in my mind that we really are all in this goal of health and wellness together. And so in regards to the feedback that we've gathered, again, we are implementing action steps to support the cleanest, safest environment that is possible, which is a benefit to our students and also for our staff. There will be additional professional development and training about COVID-19, this virus, and how teachers can play a critical role in the identification of the symptoms so that we can help manage the situation together. We will have an opportunity for our staff members to additionally be screened for COVID-19 through the diagnostic testing in our partnership with the UCHC clinic, which is another step to help monitor and make sure at defined points in time that our professional staff members are healthy. We're also looking at the unique needs of our staff members as individuals, personally and professionally, to the extent that we can, to allow staff members who might have some of the more serious health conditions or unique situations to apply for some of these positions from within our existing staff, to teach or to be considered for teaching positions within the new Digital Pathways Academy. So we're looking for these types of flexible work opportunities to the extent that it still is allowable and that it still supports fidelity of our mission to educate children and promote their success. Because our teachers are our greatest resource to the delivery of our mission of student success, and we want to support, take care of them, and create the best environment that we can for them to do their job so that our students can learn. So, the next topic of this conversation is the next leg of the road back. Where do we go from here? So let's talk about the next leg of this road back. And I know this presentation and the road back is somewhat lengthy, and I apologize for that. We're trying to be concise, but also really provide significant attention to detail and provide some substantive feedback. So where do we go from here? We are striving to go forward with as much normalcy as possible, but also making a few strategic and intentional modifications in the start to the new school year. First, we do anticipate that our staff will return to work in the normal, traditional, and consistent schedule and calendar that is currently in place. In other words, July 29th will be the first regular report day for all of our certificated teaching faculty. Of course, notwithstanding our new teaching team members who will be participating in the induction program. However, we do anticipate changing the start, the first day of school, from August 3rd to August 10th. And in accordance with the executive order, specifically number 2020-44, signed by Governor Doug Ducey, school cannot start any earlier than August 17th in person. So that August 10th start will be virtual, specifically through our distance or remote learning program. And let's talk a little bit about why that is and how that looks. As I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, this new year is different than anything we've experienced before. And this is my 32nd year as a professional educator. I've never experienced anything even close. So, as teachers, it's important that we prepare the best lesson plan possible. And frankly, we're starting school after having very abruptly shut down last March. And we want to be as ready as we possibly can be to give our students the best experience possible. They deserve that, and we owe them that. And in order to do that, we need a little bit of time. So from that July 29th through August 7th, we are developing a very intentional and very specific calendar of training to provide professional development on COVID-19, on some of the health-related essentials that I mentioned earlier, also on professional development regarding some of the points regarding to online learning and virtual learning, so that we can create further consistency and fidelity and overall quality in our distance learning protocol. We also need time to discuss and to address questions, to provide answers, and to practice the procedures and routines that will be different in regards to cleaning and sanitation, mobilization, lunchtime, bus procedures, and overall protocol that we are putting into place to keep everybody safe and to be responsive to the needs of this unique situation while still serving our families with excellence. We have reviewed the instructional minutes of our calendar, and we are confident that we are in full compliance with the minimum required minutes for the 2020-2021 school year. And so we are looking at utilizing a little bit of extra time while yet striving to get our students back to school as soon as possible, to be prepared with numerous, multiple models of learning that we will be prepared to deploy with quality and with fidelity and with the ability to adapt and move rapidly as might be needed this school year. So, again, flexibility and choice are themes that I've mentioned repeatedly that will guide our efforts and that will be required of us as we begin this year, and I would say going forward throughout the year. I'm very well aware of the fact that we're not going to be able to create a plan that's perfect. But I hope I've been able to convey that we very much desire to deliver on this vision of excellence and this mission of student success, and that many things have changed, but that has not changed, and that we've worked with intentionality, with significant resolve, that we've had a process that's been thorough, that's been inclusive, and that's created a product that provides clarity, that's hopefully created some common fit and hopefully some common sense, a plan that provides flexibility, but also provides families with choices that meet their unique needs. And I'd like to end with a few quotes that give me a little bit of inspiration and hope from a diverse array of individuals that basically share the same theme, which is that some of life's greatest challenges and some of life's greatest adversities create some of life's greatest opportunities. And that's how I hope we will embrace these days that we've experienced and those that lies before us. And I believe that we're going to maximize those opportunities to the extent that we continue to work together as a team to help every student succeed. Thank you.